Have you ever made a mistake that changed the course of your life? Maybe it was a small decision, something you thought was insignificant at the time. But what if I told you that sometimes, these mistakes could actually lead to $1 million opportunity? Meet Mark, a 28-year-old guy who always played by the rules. He went to college, got a steady job in marketing, and lived what many would call the safe life. But as much as he tried to follow the plan, something felt off. The job was stable, but his bank account seemed stagnant. He began to notice something interesting. The people he followed on social media were all talking about one thing: investing, stocks, real estate, cryptocurrency. And then it hit him. He was missing out. But Mark didn't know where to start. All he had were questions, and the overwhelming feeling that he'd waited too long. He dove headfirst into the world of finance, reading articles, watching YouTube videos, and buying books. Soon, he had a pile of information but no clear plan. He wanted to start investing, but in what? Stocks, real estate, bonds, cryptocurrency? Every day brought new ideas and more confusion. One night, after hours of research, Mark made a choice. A decision that at the time seemed like a small move, but it would change everything. Mark bought into a stock he didn't fully understand. It wasn't a popular pick and he didn't know much about the company, but he'd heard someone on a podcast mention it, and it seemed like a safe bet. The stock price was low, and he thought, why not? At first Mark didn't notice much, but then, one morning the stock he bought skyrocketed. Overnight the value of his small investment jumped 50%. It was thrilling, but it was also terrifying. Was this a fluke? Should he cash out or hold on? He remembered what he'd read about patience in investing, so Mark decided to hold. Over the next few months the stock kept climbing, and then, just when he thought it couldn't go higher, it hit an all-time high. Mark had turned a simple, almost random decision into a life-changing opportunity. That stock, the one he had almost written off as a mistake, ended up making him a six-figure return. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of getting complacent, Mark saw what had happened as a wake-up call. He started learning more about the market, reading up on business cycles, understanding balance sheets, and learning from his mistake. The one that turned out to be the best decision he ever made. The mistake wasn't picking the wrong stock, it was hesitating in the first place. Mark didn't stop at one investment, he diversified. He invested in more stocks, ETFs, and even ventured into real estate. And each time he learned from his previous decisions, both the wins and the losses. Now Mark is a different person. He's no longer just a guy with a paycheck. He's an investor, someone who knows that wealth is built slowly, and by making educated decisions over time. He shares his knowledge with friends, mentors, and even strangers. His story, like so many others, began with a mistake. So what's the lesson here? Sometimes the mistakes we think will ruin us are the very opportunities that can change everything. The key isn't avoiding mistakes, it's learning from them. Mark's story isn't unique. Every successful investor you admire, they've all made mistakes. They've all felt uncertainty. But they didn't let that stop them. They took action, learned from their errors, and adjusted. The question is, are you ready to make that first move? Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. Just like Mark, you never know. Your next mistake could be the key to your financial freedom. Subscribe for more stories and tips on how to start investing.